Welcome everyone to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in. For like 99% of human history, we were basically just wanderers. But then, in just a tiny fraction of our timeline, we went from small bands of daily hunters to the architects of massive, complex empires. It's wild to think about. Today, we're going to trace that exact monumental shift. We're looking at the incredible journey from the very first Neolithic seeds all the way to the birth of human civilization.
But first, I want you to really try and imagine the sheer exhaustion of Paleolithic survival. Literally waking up every single day knowing your one and only job is just finding enough calories so you don't die. You're constantly hunting wild animals, foraging for whatever plants you can find, and moving endlessly from place to place. It was a deeply uncertain, incredibly tiring way to live. But then, something absolutely incredible happened. A dramatic shift that completely rewrote the trajectory of human history.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Neolithic Revolution. So right around 10,000 BCE, we hit this massive turning point, the Neolithic Age, or the New Stone Age. And actually, it isn't really about the stones at all. It marks the exact moment we figured out arguably the single most important discovery in our entire history, agriculture. We finally learned how to grow our own food, putting a hard stop to that endless, exhausting cycle of hunting and gathering. When you compare the before and after of our existence, it's basically night and day. On one hand, you have the Paleolithic Age, right? Constant wandering, hunting and gathering, pure survival mode. And then, on the other hand, the Neolithic Age. We're talking permanent homes, farming, actually domesticating animals. The magnitude of this lifestyle shift is just staggering. We literally stopped chasing our food across the wilderness and just started growing it right outside our front doors. We started domesticating very specific crops, things like wheat and barley, and animals like sheep, goats, and cattle. We essentially traded in the danger of chasing our dinner for the security of keeping it safely in the backyard. And this wasn't just about having, a nicer meal. It was about creating the very first stable food supply. This right here is the first domino falling, because once communities knew they had a guaranteed source of food, suddenly everything else became possible. And that leads us directly into Section 2, the power of a surplus.
Let's walk through this logical flow together, because having a stable food supply unlocks this almost magical economic concept. Step 1, we grow crops and domesticate animals. Step 2, because we get so good at it, we produce a stable food surplus, meaning we have way more food than we actually need for just today. Step 3, that extra food allows us to stay put and settle down into permanent villages. And then, the ultimate game changer, Step 4, craftspeople start specializing in new trades. Think about that for a second. Because of the food surplus, not everybody has to be a farmer anymore. Step 4 is exactly why we have accountants, software engineers, and artists today. That surplus literally bought us time.
Moving right along to Section 3, building the first villages. So suddenly, communities are planting roots. They're building stronger houses made out of stone and mud bricks. I want you to imagine the buzz of these early villages. You've got growing families living closely together, and meanwhile, you have these craftspeople who aren't farming at all. They're spending all day molding pottery, forging tools, making jewelry. And with different villages producing different things, trade naturally emerges. And trade isn't just about moving goods around. It basically becomes the absolute fastest technology network of the ancient world. It allowed new ideas to spread like wildfire. Plus, all of this was supported by new polished stone tools that made building and farming incredibly efficient. But it does leave us with a huge question. How in the world did we evolve from polished stone and mud brick villages into massive, meticulously planned cities? I mean, we'd mastered basic materials, sure, but to take that next monumental leap in human habitation, we needed a massive technological upgrade. That brings us to Section 4, the Age of Metals. When you compare the old tech to the new tech, it's no contest. A stone axe was great for early farming, right? It got those first villages built. But a bronze tool? Oh man, that changed the game entirely. Over time, humans finally discovered how to work with metals like copper and bronze. These materials were so much stronger, highly durable, and they enabled builders to create significantly larger structures, all while allowing farmers to drastically boost their agricultural production. Metal completely leveled up our ancestors' capabilities. And what exactly happens when you combine better agriculture, larger structures, and rapidly expanding trade networks spreading across vast regions?
Well, villages snowball into towns, and those towns eventually become bustling cities. We're talking about the true scaling up of human habitation here. This combination of interconnected trade and better technology just kept feeding into itself, leading to these massive, rapidly growing populations. Which sets the stage for Section 5, the birth of civilization.
It is just incredible to step back and look at the grand scale of this timeline. We kick things off at 10,000 BCE with the end of the Paleolithic Age and those very first planted Neolithic seeds. Then, humanity just accelerates right through the Copper and Bronze Ages as we discover metalworking. And finally, we hit the explosive rise of early civilizations right around 3300 BCE. Sure, it took thousands of years, but it is still absolutely amazing how that very first farmed crop is directly linked to the towering cities of antiquity. And here's perhaps the most fascinating part of the whole story. These great civilizations didn't just pop up in one isolated place. No, around 3300 BCE, it was almost like this synchronized global awakening. You had the Indus Valley, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, all hitting this mega society milestone at roughly the exact same time. And we aren't just talking about bigger buildings here, okay? We are talking about the birth of modern municipal life. Think about it. Our ancestors went from scraping by in caves to literally engineering planned roads and actual plumbing systems. No way, right? You add in the invention of formal writing, complex economies, and firmly established governments, humanity had transformed so dramatically from its wandering hunting roots that it was entirely unrecognizable. So to try and summarize this incredible journey, I want you to listen to this powerful quote directly from our source material. Every discovery, from farming and animal domestication to metalworking and city building, helped shape the modern world we know today. Honestly, everything we rely on right now, the very foundations of how we live our lives, it was all built right on the back of those early, hard-won discoveries. Which leaves us with this final thought. When you look at the modern world around you right now, which ancient domino do you think was the absolute most important? Was it that first harvested seed of wheat? Was it the very first bronze tool? Or maybe the first written word? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and realize that the echoes of this ancient history are literally happening all around us every single day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.